You so much. Cedric, it's nice to be talking to you today. How are you?
I'm great, buddy. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. You were able to watch everything back last night. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling just first of all relieved that the episode's out, but I'm just tremendously appreciative of the experience.
Right. Now, obviously, a lot happened that afternoon before you went to tribal. How confident were you going into tribal council that you would be okay, that things would work out your way? What was your feelings going into that?
I suspected the votes would go exactly the way they went. I
Right.
wanted to believe otherwise. When we drew rocks, I saw the alliances that were already formed,
Right.
the time that they had to build those bonds that I just did not have.
Right.
And I was quite aware of the potential uphill climb that it would be for me to make any difference in
Right.
that
I was gonna,
outcome.
I was gonna say, I mean, when you were on the original tribe, things were moving your way, you had
Mm-hmm.
momentum, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously things switched up, and now you're playing from the bottom numerous times. How hard was that to go from, predictable plans to unpredictability in a tribal swap like that? And the swap at the challenge, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, just the mere fact of having now 12, 13 people all together instead of just having six,
Right.
that's a big difference in just conversations that you need to have. I mean, just to have the time to go to everybody takes a little bit more effort at that point. And so I was aware that it was a reset. I
Right.
was I was energized by the reset, but I also knew the reality of that reset.
Now, we watched your journey through the show, and it seemed to us, at least, that that you had some difficulty. This is personal, and this is game, and a lot of and I just wanted to know how you felt out there because you're not the first one to ever experience that, especially when you're around people 24/7 and you're making bonds and real relationships with people, learning
Yeah.
about their lives. Was it very hard for you to make that separation, and why?
No, I don't think, and I think maybe it came across that way,
Right.
but I didn't have a hard time. I mean, granted, I mean, I got rid of Justin. I mean, that was as personal as I can get. Um, I don't have a problem doing that because if something's dead, it needs to be cut, or if
Right.
something needs to be adjusted. So I didn't have a problem with that. I think that we have a responsibility to make sure that we remain humane in
Right.
our approach,
Yeah.
and that's what I intended to do.
Well, that's unfortunate. A lot of people see, people on the show as characters rather than real people with families and friends and whatnot. And so you were in your journey again, you're one of the most pivotal moments on the show, a historic moment where you had to make the final eviction vote. It was solely left in your hands.
Yeah.
A lot of people questioned that. Some people agreed. A lot of people questioned that why you kept Say over Justin. Please let us in on like a little bit of your thinking. Obviously, you were put on the spot, so you had to make a decision right away. What went into that decision when you were factoring in everything?
Sure. I mean, in that moment, there are several elements to it, and I'll try to
Right.
explain that briefly. You know,
Sure.
first, uh, Justin and I had established an alliance,
Right.
and we had determined we're not writing each other's name down, and I'm not writing your name
Right.
down. Entering into this game to keep you in this game. I mean, enter into this tribal to keep you in this game.
Yeah.
But a funny thing happened when Say had the opportunity. She did, first of all, what she should have done. She showed the holes in that alliance with Justin,
Right.
right? And I think there was a moment that you don't get to see. And I said it in the moment while we're there. I said, this moment is transcending the game.
Yeah.
I looked across, looked into Say, and I saw a person that was in pain. I saw a person that was hurting, and I saw a human across from another human
All right.
having a connection that told me if there was any trauma in this person's life,
Right.
we're all going to leave this game.
Right.
And I knew, though, if she left in that capacity, in that way, that may be a moment she could not recover from.
Right.
Similar, not the same, but similar to the Joe and Eva moment, I saw a person that needed a human touch. And I felt that I could not allow my voting her out to compound any issue from her life that she'd now have to walk out from and carry for the rest of her life. So just as you walk down the street and see someone that was either hurt or bodily harmed on the street, you may not give them everything they need, but you're going to lend a human, because that's a part of the social contract.
Right.
And I knew that that was part of my responsibility, that I couldn't just walk away from it. That was a moment that needed to be handled in a different way.
It was interesting last night because we both saw you leave at the same time because your journeys have been connected throughout
Very poetic, huh?
It was like fate had
Yeah,
determined this was
yeah,
going to. The survivor god spoke. Um,
yes.
Speak a bit about your relationship with Say. I just talked to her about it, and
Mhm.
she said without you, her journey would have been very, very different. Um,
Well,
what talk about the gameplay and then the personal relationship because you did have the ups and you did have your downs
right.
throughout the season.
You know what the viewer sees, they see the edited bumps, like any
Excellent.
relationship.
Yeah.
What you're not seeing is that she would be the person that would pull me aside and say, I mean, even day one, from the first day, she came and says, "Hey, the girls are talking about sending you home." Like there was so much strategy that we discussed. She's strong, she's analytical, she's transparent, and that's the person you want to play this game with. And so a lot of people saw her as abrasive or polarizing and annoying. I didn't see any of that because, first of all, she didn't intimidate me. I wasn't bothered by it. We were just playing a game together.
Right.
And so I was able to look beyond a lot of the stuff that probably annoyed even the viewers, right? And just realize this is a person that's here to play. And I'm glad it came out last night's episode from both, I think, Shaheen and even Jeff said on the podcast. And this is the kind of person you want to play this game with. Granted, she's on many sides of people's emotions, but that didn't bother me. I saw a person that was ready to do what it needed to take to play this game.
Well, yeah, and I was just speaking to her, and again, I refer to her game as strong, and other
Yeah.
people have referred to it as aggressive. I prefer the word strong because I think in the previous seasons, in the old school seasons, she would have fit in quite well with the men and women who are playing that game, simply because that was more of the kind of mindset, the approach. And nowadays, when if you do play a strong game, that kind of sets you out, that kind of
Yeah.
sets you up, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of relationships, you had one with Bianca, and we
Mhm.
saw her. Her basically, her destiny came true. She made her destiny come true when she talked to you about that she lost her vote and whatnot. Explain that
Mhm.
whole situation to us, because again, I spoke to her about it, and she was a little bit confused about what had happened, but then was understanding as well.
Yeah, I mean, so that vote was compared a lot to the Justin vote. And
Right.
people said, if you lose your vote, don't tell Cedric. If you got your vote, don't tell. I mean, I'm not simple-minded, and neither am I monolithic in my understanding of how to
Yeah.
maneuver these scenarios. The conversations and the alliance that I built with Justin was tried and true. It
Right.
was tested. And when that loyalty was broken live during tribal council, it was a very different scenario as opposed to Bianca. And she says it in her interview. She says, I want to build this trust with you. It was being built. It wasn't built, it was being built. And in that moment, it felt more manipulative than actually building.
Right. Right. Now, looking back at of kind of how everything went through, again, we only get to see a small portion of your journey on the
Yeah.
show, obviously. Is there anything about your journey, whether it was, a moment with someone, a strategic moment, is there anything looking back that you wish had have made the show that would have given maybe viewers a better understanding of your journey?
Well, you see Bula going through. You see us at the bottom. You don't see us having those really deep belly laughs, talking and having a great time. You also don't see a lot of the one-on-one conversations I had that then allowed people to come tell me information they wouldn't tell anyone else.
Mhm.
That actually happened. You also see the bumpy part, as I mentioned earlier, of saying my relationship, but you don't see the strategic talk. You don't see the balanced view. She calling me names, whatever, and we call each other back out. You don't see that, which I think, even when Star had the moment with me, I think she was the first person who actually saw me. Meaning there was so much thought about like, oh, I'm just voting people off. I'm rude. I'm a horrible game player. I'm horrible at the challenges. Even online, she was the first person who actually I feel like saw me for what I was trying to do in the game.
How much, I was going to ask you, how much did that interaction mean? Because again, you talked about the human side of the game, and you can't forget that in a game where you're playing with human beings, other people. Again, you have friends, family. How
Yeah,
much did that mean to you when she reached out to you?
I mean, it meant everything because it was a moment where you felt seen. You know, everyone wants to be seen. I mean, I tell my medical students when I'm training them, like, see the patient for them, not for their disease or not for the disease that they may be presenting with. And so she saw me, and that meant the world.
Looking back again, you've been able to see everything now, even the stuff
Yeah,
that you didn't know about. What has surprised you the most about this season, Cedric? Or it could be about you, it could be about somebody else. What's something that really shocked you and took you aback?
sure. I mean, there are 19 different realities on this game. There are 19. You know, the 18 cast and that of the omniscient producer. And
Yeah,
the producer is what the viewer gets that viewpoint.
correct.
What surprised me most is just seeing all the conversations that I didn't know happened, or just seeing what was happening at the other beaches, hearing the confessionals. But you know, this is a game that we all know and we all love, and we respect the editing ability. I mean, this is not a documentary on what Cedric did last summer in Fiji. This is an ensemble piece.
Yeah.
And so we get all those perspectives, and that's what surprised me most. But it's also the reason why we really enjoy this show so much.
Now, Cedric, I know you can't say who because obviously, but so you're part of the jury. You're going to be deciding who wins this game. What are some of the things that you were thinking about when you were saying this would be the person or this is the kind of player that I would like to win this game? What were some of the things that you were balancing in your mind, Cedric?
Yeah, I think for me, and I actually thought about this, it
Yeah,
really comes down to the moves that people made,
right.
why they made those moves, and can I connect with that why? And that will carry weight for me.
Well, Cedric, I gotta say, it was great to talk to you today. Wonderful to get your insights.
Yes,
And I really appreciate it. You made your mark on this season and all the best. And I can't wait to see you on the finale, Cedric. Should be great.
thank you so much, sir. Nice to meet you.